He is the immortal existence, has the ice magic since thousands of years. He shot only a few times in his life. Once, he killed the three-eyed raven. Another time, he set a trap and killed the dragon Viceroy with an ice spear. In the entire continent of Westeros at that time, the dragon clan was the most powerful, and no one could resist the damage of dragon flames. The mother of dragons used 3 dragons to subdue Dothraki cavalry. After the dragon was dead, the ghoul pulled the dragon out of the frozen lake with iron chains, then walked in front of the dragon, stretched out his palm and began to inject ice magic. After a while, the dragon opened his eyes and woke up. His name is the Night King. Every time he uses ice magic, the corpses on the battlefield will be resurrected. At this time, they will also lose all the memories of their lives, and become like walking dead, all for his use. However, these are only the lowest creatures, known as ghouls. For the reproduction of the race, every once in a while, the Night King will inject ice magic into human babies, turning them into White Walkers. White Walkers are very different from ghouls. They have independent minds, immune to fire and normal weapons. Each White Walker has special skills, and the gun in their hands can destroy any weapon. Through these White Walkers, the Night King soon had an army of hundreds of thousands. He want endless darkness, must obliterate this world, turn all humans into ghouls under his control. Knowing the purpose of the Night King, the children of the forest joined forces with humans to fight back, driving the aliens to the extreme north, and then built an indestructible Great Wall. In the Great Wall, there is an enchantment which prevents the aliens from invading. Those who crossed the border would be crushed to pieces in an instant, and then they sent out generations of Nightman Guardians to protect the safety of everyone in Westeros. 8,000 years have passed. During this period of time, for some reason, the aliens disappeared completely, and people on the mainland gradually forgot their existence. Until one day, the long-lost white ghost reappeared and killed the night watchman stationed at the Great Wall. The only survivor ran back to the camp to tell everyone. However, no one believed him, and instead he was beheaded as a deserter. It wasn't until the moment when hundreds of thousands of aliens approached the city that people realized that this was not a legend. Relying on the Great Wall built by ancestors is impossible to escape this catastrophe. At this moment, the sound of a dragon chant descended from the sky. It turned out that the Night King came riding a dragon. Now Viceroy turned into an ice dragon, and all the fiery blue dragon flames were sprayed on the Great Wall. The Night King had waited 8,000 years for this moment. Under the destruction of the ice dragon flame, the magic power of the ground is also constantly weakening. Facing the Night King who can control the ice dragon, the Night Watchman couldn't resist at all, and almost the whole army is wiped out. In this way, the Great Wall that stood for thousands of years began to collapse, which means that there is nothing in the entire continent of Westeros that can stop the White Walkers, and the 100,000 White Walkers has also officially opened their way to destroy the world under the leadership of the Night King. For the survival of all mankind, the heroes Snow and Torment came to the hometown of the Savages, hoping that everyone can temporarily put aside their grievances and deal with White Walkers together. Dragon Cries Tail Eyes brought up, apart from Dragon Fire, only Dragon Crystal and a Valyrian Steel Sword can kill the White Walkers. Due to the deep hatred between the two races, only a few people agreed to Snow's proposal. Just when the Savages were about to evacuate by boat, the wild dogs in the camp howled collectively. Everyone stopped, and saw a huge change on the cliff in the distance. The Savages at the front also began to flee around. As if seeing something terrible, the Thens also ordered the gates to be closed. At this time, hundreds of Savages outside the door were still begging, but after a few seconds, there was no more sound, and the scene was deadly silent. Then walked forward slowly, ready to look through the crack of the door, countless ghosts with strange shapes rushing over. At this moment, the Savages finally believed what Snow said before, and jumped into the sea, while the Savages behind also started shooting arrows at the White. But the attack doesn't work. Soon, a group of White Walkers rushed over from the fence and began to slaughter the Savages. If the White Walkers jumped over the fence, everyone would die. Seeing this, Snow pulled out his sword, rushed over with the Night Watchman, sealed the entrance of the cave with a sled. 4 ghosts on the top of the mountain are controlling everything. If they want to kill them, must retrieve the dragon crystal just now. As soon as they entered the room, a White Walker came in too, with one blow shattered the Then's weapon and killed him. He was thrown aside by the ghost when he was about to get the dragon crystal. Snow picked up the weapon on the ground and swung it vigorously, but it shattered and was knocked down by the White Walker again. Snow was at a loss, picked up the Valyrian steel sword and began to back away. At the same time, the White Walkers chased him out, preparing to deal him a fatal blow. With no way to escape, Snow had no choice but to block with his sword, but suddenly found that his weapon was not broken into pieces, so he slashed the White Walker to death. The Night King on top witnessed what happened just now, and he didn't expect someone to be able to kill his creation. At this moment, there was another roar from the top of the mountain, and countless strange ghosts jumped down, the number of which was extremely terrifying. Then the next second they are all resurrected. It will be a fight for the survival of all savages, with hordes of ghouls leaping from cliffs. Although they have lived and dominated the land north of the Great Wall for thousands of years, but in the face of an inexhaustible army of ghouls, can they survive? Just now, the leader of the Thens also died tragically. The savages were not opponents at all, and were constantly slaughtered by White Walkers. At this moment, a female commander is also struggling to resist, trying to buy time for her companions to escape, but when she saw a group of weird ghost children in front of her, she was desperate, and there was nothing she could do because she is also the mother of a child, and she was killed alive. The army outside just now had already pulled down the fence and started slaughtering every living creature. Snow and his party also completely abandoned this place, and began to retreat to the seaside under the cover of the giant. The Night King on the top of the mountain has seen all of it. After the massacre of the White Walkers, the survival is less than 10%. Once everything settled, the Night King came out and looked at Snow, then at the battlefield, opened his hands slowly, and began to cast ice magic. All the savages who had just died opened their eyes, stood up immediately, and turned into a new alien army. This is the first time that the Night King has demonstrated his ability in front of human beings for 8,000 years. Looking at everything in front of him, he realized that the so-called Battle of the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros was just a joke. A few days later, Bran discovered through the eyes of the prophet that after this battle, the number of ghosts had increased a lot. Their next target is all humans on the entire continent of Westeros. The Night King also discovered Bran snooping at this time. For the survival of mankind, Snow went to Longshee Island to find the Mother of Dragons, which allowed him to temporarily calm down the fight. There is only one war today, and that is between the living and the dead. In order to convince the people of the existence of the White Walker, Snow and Tormund found the Hound and the Lightning King and their party, planning to go north again to capture a ghoul alive. Everyone knows that this operation is extremely dangerous, and no more than 10,000 people can come back alive. At this moment, a giant bear stood in front of them. Through his blue eyes, it can be seen that he is also the embodiment of the White Walker, killing his companions with one bite. Everyone formed a circle and began to defend, but the giant was too powerful, and soon another teammate was killed. The Lightning King raised his weapon and rushed forward, setting the giant bear's body on fire. However, relying on its strong defense, the giant bear took the damage and bit the priest. At the last moment, Jorah rushed out and stabbed the bear in the heart with a dagger, killing it. Following the footprints left by the giant bear, they finally found the White Walkers team, so they lit torches on purpose, attracted the attention of the White Walkers, and then rushed out from all directions and began to surround them. With the experience of killing ghosts, Snow knew their weakness, and killed the ghosts quickly. At this moment, the butterfly effect happened. All the ghouls transformed by the dead White Walker killed by Snow, leaving only one. Tormund dropped his weapon and challenged the ghoul. The White Walker let out a roar. Snow knew something was wrong, and the familiar scene reappeared. On the cliff in the distance, all the alien troops began to run towards this side. The fastest runner, James, go back to report the news first, and then lead the other team members to pick up the ghouls and start retreating towards the center of the lake. Since the ice wasn't thick enough, it started to crumble. Just when everyone was considering whether to continue walking, countless strange ghosts rushed towards them. Snow didn't care about anything, and started running towards the center of the lake, pulling out the Valyrian steel sword, ready to fight to the death. A companion was thrown out by the ghoul, and the ice shattered, triggering a chain reaction. The first batch of white ghosts all fell into the lake, trapping Snow and his party in the middle of the lake. In this way, they have nothing to do. James, who went back to report, finally returned to the Great Wall and ordered everyone to go to rescue. The priest who was bitten by the bear died early the next morning. In other words, the Thunder King who had been resurrected 6 times now had only 1 life left, and everyone lost consciousness gradually. If they want bring the ghoul back, they only count on Mother Dragon to save and kill the Night King. But obviously, this is as difficult as skyrocketing. Suddenly, Hound threw a stone at the opposite ghoul, just to remind them that the first team will go first, then the second team, and everyone should be ready for the third team. Started to fight back desperately. What they shoulder is the safety of everyone in Westeros. In the face of endless ghosts, some companions began to sacrifice. Tormund is also surrounded by ghouls. Hound rescued him. Gradually, their territory became smaller and smaller, and everyone tried their best to protect this weird ghost. Seeing his companions die in front of him one by one, Snow began to despair. Just when he was about to face his own death, a ball of dragon flames fell from the sky, and the dragon mother finally brought his 3 giant dragons down. The scorching dragon flames quickly burned the strange ghosts. Everyone was desperate. Suddenly all the ghosts in front of them were reduced to ashes. It turned out that the dragons Vice-Ryan and Rhaego came to the rescue. Dragon Mother also came riding dragon herself. In a second, all the ghosts turned into dust, came to Snow, beckoning him to come up. When everyone was about to retreat, the White Walker on the top of the mountain handed over the ice spear to the Night King. He has waited for this moment for 1,000 years and aimed at the giant dragon in the sky. Immediately, Vice-Ryan let out a scream, and Mother of Dragon looked at all this in disbelief. As the strongest fighting force in Westeros, the dragon and the Mother of Dragons have never been injured. Unexpectedly, Vice-Ryan was killed by the Night King. To others, dragons may be weapons of war, but the Mother of Dragons has always considered them as her children. Meanwhile, the Night King has begun preparations for a second attack. Seeing all this, Snow shouted, "Mothner of Dragon, please go, leave me alone." He was thrown into the lake by the group of ghosts. Seeing that the Night King was ready to attack, Dragon Mother had to ask Drogon to retreat immediately. Right now, Night King's muzzle also passed over his head. He lost Vice-Ryan for underestimating the power of the Night King. Looking at Snow, whose life was uncertain, Mother of Dragon took everyone out of here, although she was very sad. It didn't take long for Snow to climb up from the bottom of the lake, but was soon discovered by the ghouls. Snow knew that his life has to come to an end. Just when he was about to turn his head, a figure rushed out and knocked down the ghoul. It was Bunyan, Jon Snow's uncle, and time was running out. He put Snow on his horse and charged towards ghouls, dying tragically at the hands of the ghoul. After making such a huge sacrifice, Snow finally returned to the Great Wall. On the other side, an army of ghouls dragged the body of the dragon Vice-Ryan out of the frozen lake. Then the Night King begins to cast ice magic. After a while, the giant dragon opened its eyes and turned into the first corpse dragon. Afterwards, he brought an army of 100,000 ghouls to the Great Wall. Under the flames of the ice dragon Vice-Ryan, the Great Wall was also destroyed. Everything the Night King has done before is for the dragon to complete this crucial step now. His next target is the entire continent of Westeros. After getting the news, Snow came to King's Landing City with the former White Ghost, wanting Surrey to temporarily cease the war. In order to scare everyone, Mother of Dragon appeared domineeringly. Snow told everyone that the Night King led an army of ghouls to break through the Great Wall. If they don't fight together, the disaster will happen to all of them. At this time, Hound also came here with the box, and released the ghoul under the suspicious eyes of everyone. Facing those ghouls that only existed in legends, Cersei was too scared to speak. Hound then chopped the ghoul in half. But even if the ghouls have become like this, their fighting power is still there. Snow told everyone that the only way to destroy the ghouls is to use dragon crystals or burn them. If they don't win the war, that's the end of them all. Mother of Dragon told them what she saw. The number of alien troops is at least 100,000. At this time, the Lord of the Iron Islands thought that the ghouls could not swim, and they did not return to the island until everyone was dead. Cersei finally agreed with the Mother of Dragon, but in exchange, Snow, as the king of the Northern Territory, can only stay in the Northern Territory forever, cannot join the team of the Dragon of Mother. Snow has sworn allegiance to the Dragon of Mother, so the negotiation broke down. Cersei thinks the White Walkers will go north first. Anyway, Mother of Dragon stood in front of it. Cersei just left. Now it seems that the Mother of Dragon sacrificed the dragon Vice-Ryan in exchange for ghouls, which is simply a joke. To facilitate this negotiation, the little devil Tyrion risked his life to meet Cersei. After some persuasion, he finally changed his mind. But in fact, all this is just Cersei's lie. He has sent the chieftain of the Iron Islands to bring him a mighty army of gold. The purpose is for the Mother of Dragons and the Night King to fight to the death. At that time, he will unify the continent of Westeros, but James can't bear all this, so he left Cersei and went to the north alone to fulfill his promise. On the other side, the Mother of Dragon and Snow, who returned to Winterfell, knew nothing about Cersei's plan. In order to meet the next war with the White Walkers, Mother of Dragon began to train Snow to control Rhaego. It is estimated that he also has the blood of the Targaryen family, and Rhaego did not resist. In the eyes of everyone in Winterfell, Rhaego took Snow and began to soar into the sky. After a period of time, the cooperation between them became more and more tacit, and the relationship between him and Dragon Mother became stronger and stronger. Only one day left now. At this moment, all the soldiers of Winterfell began to forge dragon crystal weapons day and night. Torment, Lightning King, and his party returned to Winterfell after a hairbreadth escape. As the sirens sounded, Snow and the Mother of Dragon looked at each other, then set out to find Drogon and Rhaegal. It can be seen that after 8,000 years, the Night King is approaching the city with all the Ghost Army. 8,000 years later, the Night King finally destroyed the Great Wall with an ice dragon, and brought an army of hundreds of thousands of ghouls to the foot of Winter City. Now he has to face the Mother of Dragon, the two most powerful dragons in the mainland. If this battle is lost, all humans will become part of the ghouls. Before the battle, the red-robed witch appeared, holding the scimitar in the hands of the Dothraki, and began to overdraw her life to cast large-scale magic. In an instant, all the scimitars in the hands of the Dothraki present ignited raging flames, and the charge began immediately, like a spark starting a prairie fire. Unsullied behind him also lit up their trebuchets, leading them forward. As the strongest cavalry in Westeros, they have their own pride and want to win this war for Mother of Dragon. Unfortunately, what they faced this time was a ghoul without feelings of pain or fear. Soon, the Mother of Dragon's vanguard was destroyed. Looking at the extinguishing flames, fear enveloped everyone's hearts. Fortunately, there are still a handful of survivors who have come back alive. Looking at the scene, even the veteran couldn't help but tremble. The next moment, the Night King's 100,000 strange ghosts rushed in, and the soldiers in front were completely overwhelmed by the ghouls, without even a chance to make a move. With Brenny's cry, everyone started this life and death battle, and couldn't bear to watch the soldiers who followed them all the way die in the hands of ghouls. Regardless of Snow's dissuasion, Mother of Dragon rode to the front line. The scorching dragon flames completely crushed the ghouls, and Snow also came to support them. After seeing the ghosts, he remembered that in the previous capture operation, as long as the ghosts were killed, the ghouls transformed by him would also die completely. At this moment, he decided to kill the White Walkers, reducing the pressure on the front line soldiers. Just when Snow was about to succeed, the weather changed suddenly, and a cold current hit the face, making Snow unable to see clearly for a while. Soon, this cold current swept across the entire battlefield, and Dragon of Mother was affected. It would be a disaster for soldiers who fought ghouls on the front lines. They were fighting with ghouls without feelings of fear or pain. In short time, a large number of companions died. The leader on the battlefield, Torment, saw that the ghouls were gradually gaining the upper hand, and ordered the soldiers to retreat. Grey Worm led Unsullied to fight desperately for the comrades. They are the last line of defense. However, judging from the current situation, it won't be long before they will be overwhelmed by endless ghouls. Grey Worm had to light the barricades. The trenches were pulled up, affected by the cold snap. Today, the number of Unsullied on the battlefield has dwindled dramatically. Seeing this situation, the red-robed witch came out under the protection of the Unsullied, put her hands on the wooden frame, and once again cast a large area of magic in a way of overdrawing her life. As the most devout believer of the Lord of Light, from the collapse of his previous faith to the resurrection of Snow, he regained his faith and finally recovered his strength. At the last moment when the ghoul rushed in, the wooden frame was finally ignited, and the cold current was dispelled. This allowed Dragon Mother in the sky to see the current situation clearly, and now everyone thought they could finally catch their breath. However, at this moment, the Night King, lurking in the dark, finally made a move. He remotely controls ghouls and uses their bodies to pave the way. As the ghouls fell at a certain point, the gap opened. Seeing this situation, everyone in the castle began to retreat towards the city wall. Because the current flames could no longer pose a threat to the ghouls, they came under the city wall and began to create the human wall, but all the soldiers who were pulled down would have no bones left in an instant. The attendant in the corridor has gone through untold hardships and finally became a top killer, guarding an intersection with his own strength. Looking back at the situation under the city wall, it is much more difficult. The giants of the ghouls have broken in and started slaughtering the soldiers. Little bear girl Lyanna stood up with difficulty. Although she was only 10 years old, she rushed towards the giant without fear. She took out the dragon crystal, stabbed into his eye, and died together. Meanwhile, Snow finally sees the Night King riding a dragon. Killing the Night King is the only way to win this war. When the Mother of Dragon and Snow were looking for the Night King in the sky, an icy dragon flame hit from below, and it was the Night King riding an ice dragon. Mother of Dragon was a little caught off guard, and could only temporarily avoid, but the Night King didn't continue. Instead, it dived into the clouds again, and then came to the sky above the castle. It turned out that his purpose was to destroy the city wall and open a gap for 100,000 ghouls. Just when he was about to success, Snow rushed over, and the two giant dragons in the sky began to bite, tearing their flesh and blood. The ice dragon's head was bitten tightly, face apart. Because there is no pain, the ice dragon just keeps chasing, while the Night King waits for an opportunity with an ice gun. At the critical moment, Mother of Dragon kicked the Night King down, and then bit off the ice dragon's neck. After this battle, Rhaego was seriously injured and could no longer fly. Seeing the Night King on the ground, she prepared to attack. Facing the giant dragon Drogon, the Night King is expressionless and faces everything indifferently. The Mother of Dragon has lost a lot due to the Night King. With more than half of his army lost since the death of the dragon Vice Ryan, it's finally time to take down the Night King under the fire.